We're going to look at the FRQs for Chapter 13. I'm not going to read all this information for you. I'm just going to do the things to make this go quicker, so you can read this. I am going to highlight a few things, though. We can sell them $2 per dozen, and we're going to hire the workers that we need at $8 an hour. So that's important. So here's the output. Here's your number of workers. Here's your total output. So the first thing you always want to do when you see a problem like this is to calculate marginal. So if this is our total product, we have to calculate our marginal product. So we're looking at additional. We're not looking at average here. We want to find when we add one more worker, how much does that one more worker add to the production process? So 8 from 0 to 1 is 8. From 8 to 15 is 7. From 15 to 21 is 6. Then we have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Makes it real easy. So that is how much the marginal product is. Now we have to calculate the value of marginal product, or that marginal revenue product, and that's really important when you start answering the questions down at the bottom that we phrase this correctly. The marginal revenue product, how much we're going to make when we sell that next unit. So if we're selling these for $2 a piece, you're just going to multiply each one of these times 2. Times 2, all the way down. So we have 16, 14, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. And that is our marginal revenue product. We have to label it correctly, because when you answer the questions at the bottom, if you use the wrong terms, they're not going to count it. And then the marginal factor cost is your $8. All right, so we're going to hire each worker at $8. So this is going to be $8. If I hired this worker, it's 8. The cost of this one is 8. The cost of this one. So down here, using marginal analysis, state the condition for employing the profit maximizing number of workers. So we're never going to hire someone if it costs more than what we are bringing in from using them. So if this is the revenue we're bringing in and we're paying them 8, we'll hire them. We're making 14, we're making 12, we're making 10. At this point here, we come over here and we can see that our profit maximizing is going to be at the 5th worker. So using marginal, state the condition for employing the profit maximizing number. We're going to do it to the point where your marginal revenue product is equal to your marginal factor cost. You cannot just put your marginal product equals your marginal cost, because this is your marginal product. This is your marginal revenue product. Those numbers are two different things. Okay, so make sure that you know that. Your marginal costs are not necessarily going to be the exact same thing, but your factor cost is going to be the same thing. That's how much you are paying employees, which is not the same thing as your marginal cost of producing overall. Okay, so using marginal analysis, state the condition for employing the profit maximizing number. We're going to do it where your marginal revenue product equals your marginal factor cost. So that's A. Okay, B. How many workers would they hire to maximize profits? And once again, we said that. If we're paying each one of them 8, the first one's bringing in 16, second is 14, third 12, fourth 10, the 5th is 8. So they're making 8 and we're paying 8. So we're going to hire 5 workers, because the value of the 5th worker is equal to, or that marginal revenue product is equal to, the marginal factor cost at 5 workers. If the wage rate decreased to $6 per hour, how many workers would we employ? And so we're going to do the same thing. Now we're going to employ the next one. So we're going to employ 6 workers. Once again, your marginal revenue product is equal to your marginal factor cost at that point. All right, D. If the wage rate was $6 per hour and the price of pencils decreased to $1 per dozen, how many workers would they employ. So now we're going to have to go back and do this, and instead of multiplying 8 times 2, it's 8 times 1. So the first one is 8, the second one is 7, the third one is going to be 6, and so we're going to hire between 2 and 3. We'll hire the second one for sure. We are indifferent about this, and we'll talk about that specifically in class. So, oops, I'll put that up there. That's the first one. All right, let's look at the second one. Okay, you're going to identify all these curves at first. So curve 1, we know that this is our marginal cost curve. This is where we have increasing marginal products, and then all of this is decreasing. This is your marginal cost column. Let me say that. Let me make sure I do that. All right. So when costs are going down, we know that we have increasing returns. As soon as cost starts to go up, we know that we have negative returns. So identify the cost curves that are denoted. So curve 1, once again, is your marginal cost curve. Curve 2, that's going to be your average total cost. It's always going to be the second one because we know that we have to add together your variable costs and your fixed cost curve. We know this one is not your average fixed cost because remember that is always going down. Always, always, always. Your average fixed cost as we take that and apply our fixed cost over more units, it's constantly going down. So the top one is going to be your total cost curve because we have to add our average variable cost and our average fixed cost to get this one. So here's our marginal cost curve. Your average total cost is always going to be the next one. Your variable cost is going to be here because your fixed cost one is always going to be downward sloping. Explain why curve 1 does each of the following as output decreases. So curve 1 is your marginal cost curve. Initially it's decreasing because we have increasing marginal product. As we add more workers, the next worker is adding more, and so our costs are going down. Eventually they're going to start increasing because we have decreasing marginal product, and then that ends up being negative marginal product. And so costs are going down here because of increasing marginal product. Costs start going up because of decreasing marginal product. When we add the next worker, they're either not adding as much or they're actually going negative. What measure of cost is represented by the vertical distance between curves 2 and 3? And once again, this is your total cost. This is your variable cost. So the distance between here are your fixed costs. And remember, it's going to be very wide over here because when we first have that fixed cost, we're not making very many units of it. Our quantity is very low. So we're spreading our fixed cost over a few. The more we start to produce, our fixed costs start to become less, or average fixed costs, let me say that. Your average fixed costs start to go down. And so the space between your total costs and your variable costs is going to decrease because your fixed costs are getting small. Your average fixed costs are getting smaller and smaller and smaller as you produce more. D, explain why the vertical distance between 2 and 3 decreases as output increases. And I just said that because of your average fixed cost. If you need to go back and re-listen to that, go ahead. And then using the letters on the graph, identify 2 points on the firm's short-run supply curve. And we're going to do this in the next chapter. We haven't done that. But eventually what we're going to see is that your supply curve starts here. Your marginal cost curve and your short-run supply curve are anything above your average variable cost. So if we're going to identify 2 points that are on our short-run supply curve, it's going to be point K and point L. But we will definitely go over more of that when we get to the next chapter. All right. Once again, you can read all these directions yourself. We're going to point out a couple things. We've got a market price of $2 and a wage rate of 15. The table below shows your short-run production function for hats. And so once again, here is your number of workers. This is your total product. You're going to calculate your marginal as you go across here. So from 0 to 10 is 10. From 10 to 26, 16, 10, 8, 5, and 3. So after which worker do diminishing marginal returns begin? And so it's after the second worker. When we add 1, we go to 10. When we add the second worker, they add more than the one before. When we add the third worker, our total product is still increasing, but at a diminished rate. And so diminishing marginal return sets in after the second worker. So either put after the second worker or with the third worker. Calculate the marginal physical product of the fifth worker. And so the marginal product of the fifth worker is 5 units. Calculate the marginal revenue product of the third worker. And once again, we're paying them $2 and they're producing 10. So 2 times 10 is, well, good grief. Well, you get the picture. I'm not going to erase all this. 2 times 10 equals 20. So the marginal revenue product of that third worker, not the marginal product, but the revenue product, is 20. How many workers will GW hire to maximize profit? And so we have to go and calculate and see how much we're paying each one of them versus how much that additional worker is bringing in. And so if we're paying them a wage of $15, we're paying this person 15, we're paying this person 15, this person 15, this person 15, 15, 15. Our marginal revenue at $2, it's going to be 20 here. It's going to be 32, 20, 16, 10, and 6. And so we want to make sure that here is our marginal revenue product and here is our marginal factor cost. If we're bringing in 20 and paying them 15, are we going to hire them? Yes. If we're bringing in 32 and they're paying them 15, yes. Bringing in 20, yes. Bringing in 16, yes. Are we going to hire that fifth one? No, we're not going to hire the fifth one. So we're going to hire 4 workers. Paying them 15, bringing in 20. If GW Company has fixed cost equal to $20, what will be the company's short-run economic profits from hiring 2 workers? So your total cost, let me move this up a little bit, of 2 workers, $30, which is your variable cost of the employee, plus your fixed cost, and so your total cost is going to be your 50. Variable cost, fixed cost equals total cost. Let's see, 2 workers, 26. 26 hats, or times how much? $2. $52. Economic profits. We're going to take our total cost, subtract it from our revenues, and we're going to get a profit of $2. And then F, if the price of hats increases, what will happen to the number of workers hired in the short run? We're going to increase that. So we're going to increase in the short run. Because remember, we're not changing the size of our plant here because we're in the short run. So all we're going to do in the short run, if the price is going up, supply is going up, or the quantity supplied is going to go up, and so we're going to hire more workers in the short run. Okay, and lastly, assume that a firm uses capital as fixed and labor is variable. Marginal product of labor at first increases, then decreases with the amount of labor. Using a correctly labeled graph, draw and identify the firm's average total cost, average variable cost, and marginal cost. So once again, at first, marginal cost. We have over here increasing marginal product, diminishing marginal product, and negative marginal product. And our average total cost is going to go here, and we want to make sure that this point here for our average variable cost is the lowest point, right? It has to be the lowest point, and your marginal cost is going to be below that. Anything above this, average variable cost is going up. And the same with your average variable. Yeah, this is average total cost. I just messed that up, but I'm not starting this video over again. So let me explain that again. You've got your marginal cost, you've got your diminishing marginal product here, diminishing marginal product, negative marginal product, cost, your additional costs going down, additional costs are going up. This is your average total cost curve. At this point here where it intersects your marginal cost has to be the lowest point. So if you want to make it a little more, so where this is the lowest point and it's clear that you're going up, please make sure that you do that. Your average variable cost curve is going to be below this curve, but it's going to be wider on this side and it's going to get closer because you have those average fixed costs. So average fixed costs are very high at low, and then the lowest point on the average variable cost also needs to be that point there, so average variable cost. We'll go over this in class again if you have any questions. So we're going to label our marginal cost, average total cost, average variable cost. Given your part or graph in part A, answer each of the following. Why is the marginal cost shaped as it is? And I've already said that because over here we're having our marginal costs are going down because of the increasing marginal product. Then you have diminishing marginal product and negative marginal product. What is the difference between these two? These are your average fixed costs. Not your fixed cost. You have to put average fixed costs because those two things are different. Define economies of scale. Economies of scale means as you produce additional units, your average fixed costs are going to go down because you're able to spread your fixed costs over more and more units. And so economies of scale is the part where your costs are going down because you're taking those average fixed costs and dividing those between a lot of units. Draw a long-run average total cost curve that has regions of economies of scale followed by a region of diseconomies of scale as output increases. And so you're going to start here. Remember, your long-run average total cost curve is made up of all of your smaller or your short average long-term costs. And so you're going to start up here with economies of scale and end up over here with diseconomies of scale. So economies of scale means you're able to get your costs to go down because of those average fixed costs being spread over many units. But eventually we become so large that we have diseconomies of scale, and it actually becomes more expensive because of duplication of processes. So many people, this business is so big, we don't know who's doing what. So sorry about that.